Scripps Hospital in San Diego, who I learned later his name was Dr. Cliff Caldwell. And this is the hip surgeon's hip surgeon. This is where doctors who have hip problems go, and they fly from all over the world. And so I got in to see him. It took me about a month to get in to see him. This guy is a genius. He's a genius. He's like Zorro with a sword. He's just like a magician. And so he came in, I do the x-rays, and I'm sitting there, he comes in, takes the x-rays, puts them up on the wall, says, yep, hip's gone. And he said, the other one's going too, but this one's gone already. He said, so this is a completely optional exercise, or optional operation. You can have it now, you can have it later, you can have it whenever the pain gets too great. In other words, doesn't matter to me, because I found out he's busy for months, years in advance. So I finally had my hip replaced. And I had my hip replaced by him because he was the best. He was superior. And by the time I had my second hip replaced at last, 5 years later, the first operation was 3.5 hours. His technology had improved so well he could do it in 1 hour and 45 minutes. The difference was 1 week in the hospital recovering from the anesthesia and everything else. The second operation, 1 hour and 45 minutes, I walked out the next day. Walked out with a new hip. I mean, the guy's genius. Somebody said, you know anything about Cliff Caldwell? Yes, best in the country in hip surgery. Or at least one of the best in the country in hip surgery. People line up, pay him any amount. You never even ask the amount. You never even ask the price. They line up, when can you do it? Please, can I get in? They fly from all over the country just to be operated on by Cliff Caldwell. That's what we want people to do. When they think about advertising copy, when they think about what you specialize in, they want to say, you're the one. You're the one. Okay? So segmentation is you must be clear. And there's a question, by the way. It's a wonderful question for networking. We talked about networking a little while ago. Is when you're networking, you're in a meeting, you're in your sessions at lunchtime and so on, one of the great questions, if you're at a business meeting with people in different businesses, is to say, what would I have to know to recommend clients to you? What would I have to know about what you do to recommend clients to you? Who would be the perfect client for you? I mean, ideally. I mean, so I can search my memory bank and see if I know anybody I could send to you. One of the most wonderful things you can do in networking is to send people business. If you send people business, you'll have friends for life. And not only that, because of the law of reciprocity, they'll do everything possible to reciprocate. But by the law of sowing and reaping, the more you give, the more you get. So anyway, my point is this, is if a person were to ask you, what would I have to know about you and what you specialize in, your area of excellence, in order to recommend people to you? Then what would you answer? And you must have an answer. Say, oh, well, I write copy. No, I'm sorry. That's like quality and service in Herschel's presentation. No, not acceptable. Is I specialize because I do this in a precise way. I have this wonderful way of discovering the emotional hooks in a particular service and expressing that in a headline so that people call up and buy or at least respond in much higher levels than people who don't. So than in my competition. And the fourth area is concentration. And concentration means that you focus. You focus on just those clients who could most benefit from what you sell. Whenever you say, who's your ideal client, people say, oh, everybody who needs advertising. No, that means you have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea. You shouldn't even be allowed out of the house because you're a danger to yourself and others. You have to specialize. You have to focus. You're not a machine gunner machine gunning the market. You pick your shots. As you think through carefully who it is that you specialize with, who can most benefit from what you do, and you focus on getting to those people. And I'll tell you, this is really the key to success in the future. Concentrate, focus all of your time, focus all of your energy, focus all of your promotion on just those clients who can most benefit the most rapidly. For example, if you sell headache remedies, who are you looking for? Person who's got a headache. And when do they have a headache? When do they have a headache? Now. They got the headache now. There's a basic rule in advanced selling that says this, and we'll touch on this in a couple of minutes, but it says this, is people need to have, a good person needs to have a problem unsolved, or they're not a client, or not a prospect, or they have to have a need unsatisfied. They have them now. They have them now. They have them right now. In other words, you sell fire extinguishers and their hair is on fire. You know, this is a good prospect because they need what you're selling now. You're looking for people who need what you're selling now. So these are the three. First of all, specialize and determine your area of specialization. You cannot be good at everything. The very best copywriters and the highest paid are ones who specialize in specific areas and then become absolutely excellent in something that is of importance and value to your client. Number 3 is to determine your target market, your ideal customer. And then 4th is to concentrate on that market, concentrate single-mindedly. Well, this brings us to the second part of pumping up your profits, and it's what I call the marketing mix. Now, you've all heard about the marketing mix, but let me just touch on it quickly. It has, in my model, it has 7 parts. In fact, I have a marketing mix like this. I'll give you the 7 parts. This is my model. We teach this in our advanced coaching programs. So we say the basic marketing mix has 4 parts. And first of all is the product or the service. And you always define your product or service in terms of what it does for your client. People don't say, if I were to say to you, what do you do for a living? If you say, I write copy, that's not a definition of your product or service. Because nobody cares what your product or service is. They only care what it does. So you always describe your product or service and the product or service of any of your clients in terms of what it does to improve the life or work of the prospective customer. Of all the products and services in the world, there's only one thing that customers buy. What is it? Solutions. That's a good point. What they need? The answer is improvement. Is all people buy is improvement. From the beginning of history, 6,000 years ago, from the first open markets, people buy an improvement. They believe that your product or service will help them improve their life or work or some way. They'll help them improve their business, improve their sales, improve their customer lead generation, and so on, is they seek improvement. They seek that your product or service will help them to do it better than they're currently doing it. Because if they do not see or perceive an improvement in their situation, they will not act. They will say, let me think about it, leave it with me, do a proposal for me, leave me some information, I'll get back to you next year. Have you heard any of these things before? It's because they don't perceive the improvement. So everything that we do in life is to improve people's life or work in a cost-effective way. And the improvement that they want from you more than anything else is greater lead generation. Is that true? If you're in advertising, it's greater response rates. What is it that all business people want to do? Can you guess? It's one thing. They want to sell more of their product or service. That's what they want to do because the business of America is business. And the purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. And so therefore, that's the reason that they hire you. So you have to be clear about what the product does. And by the way, when you're writing copy, forget about all the details and brochures and everything else. It's helpful to know. But what you want to know is specifically what the product does to improve the life or work of the customer. And of all the things that the product does, what's the one thing that will elicit the greatest response the very fastest? Because if you can make that electrical connection, like an electrical arc, it'll cause the phone to ring. Some years ago, I was doing a seminar in Ada, Michigan, actually Grand Rapids. And I was doing it with a group of promoters. And they told me this interesting story because I spoke to the advertising guy who wrote the copy. Anyway, they'd been advertising and running ads on the radio. And so this gentleman, his name is Barry Lebov, L-E-B-O-V. And he has an agency in Grand Rapids called Lebov and Beyond. Isn't that cute? Cute name. Anyway, I was talking to him on the phone because he talked to me. He phoned me to ask me some questions. He had called up the promoters, and they had been running ads on the paper and running ads on the radio. And they were telling me privately that they weren't getting much response. So then they got a phone call from this guy, and he said, how's the promotion going? I heard your ads on the paper. They said, oh, it's going really well. It's going great. We're really happy, expecting a lot of results later on, cumulative effect. Whenever the advertising is no good, people say, well, you need a cumulative effect. You need to run it more often. If it's not working, then do it harder. Anyway, he said, well, I have only one question for you. And they said, yeah, what's that? He said, is your phone ringing? And there was a silence. And they admitted, well, no, they're running all these ads, but the phone wasn't ringing. People were not registering for the seminar. He said, give me the account. He said, and I'll get your phone ringing or you won't have to pay me anything. And he went back, he called me up, he identified the critical benefits that people would get from attending this seminar. He put the advertising together in such a way that if you didn't attend, you'd be crazy, especially if your competition did. He ran these ads, and the seminar had about 100 people in it. After 6 weeks of advertising, within 2 weeks, it had more than 1,000 people. The phones rang off the hook. They had to bring in their children and their wives and their friends to answer the phones. The phones just went crazy because the advertisement was focused on the specific benefit, not the fact that a seminar is going to be offered, but what the seminar will do for you in your career. Are you with me so far? So it's really important to keep focused on what does it do? What does it do? Not what it is. And we work with our entrepreneurs all the time. We say, tell me about your business. And they always describe, I sell insurance. No, you don't. You sell security and peace of mind. No, but we sell the finest insurance packages, estate planning. No, you sell taking care of the most important people in your life if something accidentally were to happen to you. You don't sell a thing. You sell an experience. You sell a feeling. You sell how the person will feel as a result of using the product. Anyway, I'm getting off. I don't mean to duplicate what you already learned. So the second is the price. Now this is really important. It's one of the hand-biting, white-knuckle parts of any business is setting the price, establishing the price. And you can tell if your price is correct. How can you tell? The amount that you charge is correct. How can you tell? You're fully busy. You're fully booked. People are buying you at that price. When do you raise your prices? When you have too much business and you try to discourage business. The only time you raise your price is to discourage, or in other words, to limit the amount of business to the amount of business you can deliver. If you are overwhelmed, you've got work that takes you 7 days a week, it means you're not charging enough. So therefore, what you have to do is you have to constantly think about, am I charging the right price? Should I have an introductory price? Should I have a discount price? Should I have staggered prices? Should I have bundled prices? Should I break my services down into separate prices? And you know more about this than I do, but you have to keep revisiting the issue of price because people are very price sensitive, especially if they have no other basis of comparison. The third part of the marketing mix is what is called the place, is where do you sell? In what place do you make contact? Did you make contact on the internet? Do you make contact face-to-face, person-to-person? Do you make contact on the phone? Do you work out of your home? Do you work out of your office? And so on. Let me tell you a quick story, which I thought was cute. No, I'm sorry, I'll come back to this in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. So the place is really important. Where are you going to work? Are you going to work in a certain geographical area? Are you going to go and see clients, or the client's going to come to you? But the place is important. And what I would suggest, people say, well, I can work anywhere in the country. Well, that's true, but much of your work, at least initially, is going to require face-to-face contact with your customers. Very hard to do any kind of long-term work by telephone or by email. You've got to somehow make that chemical, that emotional connection with clients. And so I know many people who say, I'm only going to work within 50 miles of my home. I'm only going to work with people that I can work with face-to-face. Now, as it happens, there are 20,000 businesses in America per million population. So we have 300 million people in America now, or slightly more, times 20,000 is what's that? 12 million businesses? Actually, it's about 12 million businesses that actually report to the income tax department, which means they have staff. That means there's 12 million people. There's 20,000 businesses within a million people. In southern Florida, there's probably several hundred thousand businesses that could be your client. You don't have to travel all over the world to find clients. In fact, if you can't find clients here, traveling all over the world may not be a good idea. The fourth P is promotion. And promotion is how you sell, how you market, how you advertise, how you get the goods out of the woods. Now here's an interesting point. If you are selling your services to show people how to attract leads, is to market to bring in people who are interested in buying, if you can't do it yourself, something's pretty wrong here. So we need to become really, really good at lead generation for ourselves, and we want to become really, really good at lead generation for our clients. Is that true? Say yes. So on a scale of 1 to 10, keep grading yourself. How good are you? How good is your product or service relative to your competitors? How good are your prices? Are your prices correct? And always be open to the possibility that you may be wrong. Are you selling in the right place, and do you have the right promotion? And of course, this is advertising, and this is sales, and this is follow-up, and there's all the different things that you do to actually translate a prospect into a customer. Now the next P's are things that I've added on, and the first is called packaging. And this is where I wanted to talk about. Packaging is the look. Now, human beings are about 95% visual in their first impressions. Is what they see is what impacts them more than anything else. We say there's 22 times the nerves from the eye to the brain is from the ear to the brain. So what people see has 22 times the impact of what they hear. And what counts with regard to packaging? Everything counts. Everything counts. Every single part of your visual appearance counts. And I am so disappointed. I see people who are bright and smart and intelligent and well-educated and ambitious and desirous and so on and so forth, and they go in front of a client and they look like they fell off a watermelon truck and were beaten up before they came into the office. And they think, well, it's okay because I'm selling my intelligence and my creativity and everything else. But human beings are hit by your visual appearance like a wave. Wham! It hits them so hard that in 4 seconds they decide whether to use your services. Within 30 seconds, they've finalized their opinion of you, and from then on, they're just going through formalities. And I've worked with countless people. And by the way, I won't go into this because I can always tell the highest paid people in any room. You. I know exactly who they are because of the way they look. Why? It's because human beings